Welcome, everyone. I'm really thrilled to have everyone here today. And today it's my pleasure that we get to welcome Dr. Bowtie Todd Jenkins. Todd currently serves as the Senior Diversity, Inclusion, and Innovation Leader in Corporate America at a Fortune 400 company, and is a global inclusion trainer, strategist, and speaker with Bowtie Leadership Incorporated. As a consultant, he has worked with several major corporations, small and large nonprofits, and entrepreneurs. He graduated with honors from the University of South Carolina with 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Sociology, and he obtained a Master of Science from Illinois State University and a doctorate from the University of Arkansas. His research is focused on minority professionals' retention and perception of their supervisor within the workplace. Currently, he's enrolled at Harvard University, completing postdoctorate studies as a Harvard Fellow. He also serves as faculty member for the Executive Institute on Inclusion and on the Diversity Business Journal Review Board. Todd is a proud Rotarian, a Paul Harris Fellow from the Rotary Club of Fayetteville, Arkansas. He served as the former Rotaract advisor, Interact sponsor, RILA presenter, youth services chair, 2 terms on club board of directors, and graduated from his district and zone leadership academy. He is currently one of the youngest youth exchange district chairs in Rotary International, and he's had the honor to speak at various Rotary district zones and international conventions. I've had the great privilege of getting to know Todd through our work on the Rotary International DEI Task Force, where we've been responsible for putting together a plan to assess the state of DEI in Rotary and among its 1.2 million members. I'm constantly impressed with not just his knowledge and wisdom, but the grace in which he addresses all the issues surrounding DEI. And so today it is my great pleasure to introduce all of you and to welcome Dr. Bowtie Todd Jenkins.
Oh, that was so awesome, Brian. Well, hello, my friends. Hello. It's so good to see everyone. I see Mama Sylvia on the call and so many other friends that I see and new friends. It's just exciting to have life. It's exciting to be here with you all. And thank you all so much for having me. We don't have a lot of time today, so I want to go ahead and jump right into our content and our discussion. Moving from diversity to inclusion, as you probably have heard a little bit about myself, I do love bow ties. That's one thing that I really do enjoy. I love Rotary, but as you kind of heard in my resume or my bio, I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, born and raised there. I've been in school like my whole entire life, but outside of school, I like to go to beaches. And so I need to go back to the West Coast because I do miss the beaches. And that's probably the only time I do not wear my bow ties. And I love to travel. Of course, I love to travel. Zoom has allowed for me to continue to explore my curiosity through museums and things like that around the world, even in the midst of the pandemic. You can't see me well right now, but if I stand up, you'll also say, yeah, he loves to eat too. He loves to eat and really enjoy different beverages, et cetera, around the world. Outside of that, I don't enjoy my life alone. I'm here in Bentonville, Arkansas, home of Walmart with my lovely wife that really allowed for me to do life together, as well as our 2 fur babies, Nyla and Merlin. And I'm happy to announce, if you haven't heard, that we just added our firstborn new son to the family. He's like all of 35 days. So yeah, he's really, really new. And so, yes, he has a lot of aunts and uncles and Rotary and grandmas and granddads. And I just love it. We are so happy with our love and so happy to see Mateo here with us. And so, of course, what are we doing today? For this discussion, this breakout, we're having a conversation. Of course, I can't come into any conversation without talking about bow ties. I'm going to tell you a little quick story, but most importantly, we're going to land with what connects us here today, which is Rotary. Okay, that's going to be our discussion, and hopefully, I want to be able to get to it enough that we can open it up for Q&A at the end. Okay. So let's get started. If you never heard me speak before, people know me as Dr. Bowtie Todd. If this is your first time hearing me, I have to let you know about the bow tie and where this came from. And the bow tie for me is larger than a necktie. It really came to me as I travel locally and globally, and people will stop and ask me about my necktie. They ask me, where did I get it from? They comment on the design. They're curious, and I would say overwhelmingly, it's like 99.5% of the time is positive comments. And so I have a choice to like have a conversation or ask them about themselves, etc. And I had an epiphany, and I started to think, what if we lived in a world where people would genuinely stop what they're doing to be curious about another human that they never met before? What if? And what if not only did we explore our curiosity, but we actually gave some positive comments, like you look great today. I like what you're wearing, etc. Like what type of world would we live in? Living in a world of kindness. And so I thought about this. And I see also in my practice and my research that is one of the biggest challenges of how to come together and have conversations, especially with people who look different than yourselves, or you cannot have any similarities, etc. So what I did was I created a bow tie philosophy and acronym, and I'm going to share it with you all. And this is how I live my life. This is our expectations for our conversation today. So let me go ahead and share. The first letter of bow tie is the letter B. So in any conversation, anything you do, you should be mentally present. Okay, I ask that you be mentally present. I know that we're all physically in our own space and we're all virtually connected, but I ask that you be mentally present. The next letter of the word bow tie is the letter O, and O stands for openness. Okay, open new ideas. Open heart, open mind. I really do believe that I'm going to share some things. It's my perspective. You may not agree with it I share, and that's okay. I just ask that you have an open mind and open heart. The next letter of bow tie is the letter W, and W is what I love because this is a time for you to get engaged. Your willingness, willing to own your own truth, willing to share your story. I believe everyone on this call has a unique story, and it's up to you to share it. So of course, at any time, feel free to share your perspective in the chat, or be able to own your own truth, okay? I don't know if we have any bow tie wearers on the call today, but usually what I have learned that the most challenging part that people tell me about this necktie is really getting this knot in the middle. People are really challenged about getting this knot. Like, how do you make that work on your own, Todd? And, I have seen TIE is the most challenging parts of these conversations today. Is how do we tie it together? How do we leave the conversation better than we came in? Or even bow tie in your life. How do you wake up and go to sleep feeling great of how you impacted today? And so, my friends, that's essentially the bow tie acronym. And that's really what I hope that we could do today is have a bow tie conversation. So if that makes sense to you, and if you agree to the expectation in the chat, will you write the word bow tie? Okay, I already got some bow ties coming in. Okay, bow ties coming in. And oh, nice, 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 nice. I love it. I love it. I love it. See, I told you we can have bow tie conversations without even wearing a bow tie. Okay, now I can get started, Brian, because now we can get down to business. So what I am talking about is moving from diversity to inclusion. So many times and you probably been a part of a lot of discussions around diversity and inclusion. But this is what I have noticed in my research and practice is that guess what? People come to these words very differently. So before you go into talking about your initiatives and your projects and your clubs, etc., I think the first thing we have to establish is what these words mean to each other. And how do we interpret these words? And we cannot assume that someone believed this word the same way I believe this word means. So I want to tell you my positioning of what these words mean to me, okay? Diversity, what is diversity? Diversity to me is twofold. Diversity is visible and invisible differences that make you complete or make us complete, okay? And what is interesting about visible diversity, right now you see me on camera, you see a good looking brown guy over here with a bow tie on. That is my visible difference, okay? Now, invisible, you may not know that I'm one of 13 kids. I can habla Espanol and follow Portuguese. I'm afraid of heights, but I love to travel on planes. So I want people to understand when you show up to this word, I want to challenge you a little bit. It is important for the things you see on the outside. That is important, but it's just as important of the things you cannot see, like your backgrounds, your lived experience, your abilities, your sexual orientation, your faith, etc. That is also diversity. Let's go to this next word that we're really talking a lot more about in these last few years, especially in Rotary, is inclusion. Okay, we throw this word out a lot. I love it. I love inclusion. Inclusion is very simple to me. Inclusion is an action. Inclusion is creating an environment, creating a space, creating a climate, a culture where we respect all these visible and invisible differences. Okay, and respect, champion, value, appreciate, and ensuring that this is a space where people are seen and heard. Now, you may be wondering, Dr. Jenkins, why did you put heard in your definition? Well, here's the catch, is that how many of you all know that you could be doing a lot of talking, but that does not mean anyone is listening? So it's very, very important that in these spaces that we want to create some inclusivity for people to be seen and heard. I'm not going to say that everyone is going to agree. I'm not going to say everyone is going to come out happy, but inclusion is having that action for people to actually feel value in that space to be created. Now, you cannot talk about true inclusion. Here's my perspective. You cannot talk about true inclusion without talking about equity. And now, the interesting piece of this is that I work with corporate American leaders all around the world. And it's very fascinating that, you know, a lot of business leaders, they get business equity, right? But they don't get human equity. That's what I'm talking about. And a lot of Rotarians, I love my Rotary family, but they say, hey, I'm going to treat everyone equal. I agree, treat everyone equal, but can I challenge you to go a little bit further? Can I say, can we strive for equitable treatment? Can we design that? Can we inspire that as Rotary leaders? And they say, well, what do you mean? What do you mean the difference? You know, it's fair to all concerned. It's equal. I said, well, I don't want to disrespect you, but can I just lift up my leg and let me show you my shoe? And here's my shoe. I wear a size 10.5 brown shoe. Okay, when it comes to equality is Steve, you get a shoe, Christina get a shoe, Brian get a shoe, Warren get a shoe. It's like Oprah, everybody gets shoes. Okay, that is equality. But equity is giving everyone on this call a shoe that fits them. And you have to think about that. I have to think about that. I have to spend more effort and energy to actually think about that. Matter of fact, here's the question. Let's see here. Miss Patricia, can you hear me? Let's see. Hey, Miss Patricia, question for you. What is your favorite color shoe to wear?
My favorite color shoe?
Yes, your favorite color shoe.
Blue.
Did you say blue?
Yes.
Okay, well, I like brown. We're in the B family. Okay, just a little bit. What size shoe do you wear? If you don't mind sharing.
What size shoe?
Yes.
7.
7. Okay, I wear 10.5. Miss Patricia, how will you feel? Question for you. How will you feel if I ask you to show up to the club every day wearing my size 10.5 brown shoe?
That may be a bit awkward. I'd fall over my feet.
Okay, thank you, Miss Patricia. Thank you so much for your participation. I asked Miss Patricia, how would she feel? She said it will be a bit awkward and she may even fall over with her feet. But this is the catch here. What did Miss Patricia not say? She did not say, Dr. Jenkins, I don't care about your ugly shoe. It's not my size, it's not my color. And guess what? I'm not showing up to the club meeting tomorrow. Here's the point here, my friends, is that we actually have people showing up to our workspaces, to our clubs, to our communities every day with shoes given to them that does not fit. They don't like to wear them and they're forced to wear them and they feel a bit awkward. Some have been wearing them so long that they forgot how awkward it feels. Okay, that's another conversation. Let me keep back because this is a one-on-one. Let's keep going. Here's the difference between equity and equality. You're seeing this all across social media, okay? And we show this in corporate, and it's a great image. And an image is worth a 1,000 words, But here's another great way. Do you know when I show this to corporate leaders, do you know I still have corporate leaders share with me? So Dr. Jenkins, what you're saying is, this is a short people initiative. And I'm like, no. So we have to go and redesign this. And when we're talking about equity, my friends, we're talking about the structural barriers to opportunity. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about height. We're talking about the structural barriers to opportunity. And I want you to think about that today. What is the reality of the equitable treatment in your community? What is the reality in your workplace? What is your reality as a volunteer? What is your personal reality of the structural barriers to opportunity? And so I want you to say and think about that. And you may be wondering, like, why are we even having this conversation in Rotary? I came here to volunteer. I came here to serve. Why are we talking about diversity and inclusion? Well, it's 3 ways people really look at this, my friends. First, I call it the moral case, why this is important. It's like, it's the right thing to do, okay? That's what one case of. The second case, I call it the social case. The social case is like, we're doing it because everyone else is doing it. The world is changing, so we need to change as well. Do you know that I met several individuals who don't agree or support the moral case or the social case of this? But one case that been able to stick really well, especially in business, is the business case. And the business case say, if we get this right, we will make more money or save money. And then all the executives wonder like, oh, let Todd, can we meet after this? Oh, you're talking about the bottom line. We're talking about the P&L statement. Yes, because it is a case that it helps with productivity. It helps with turnover. It helps with engagement and retention. And it is a case for us as Rotarians. And it says, if we get this right, if we continue to strive for the journey of inclusivity, it will make us bigger. It will make us better. It will make us stronger together. It's a case where everyone is included. And guess what? Everybody wins, including straight white old men. Everybody wins in inclusion. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because there's a space for everyone in this, even the people you don't agree with. See, inclusion is still creating that climate. But if we strive for it, it will make us bigger, better, and stronger together. Make sense? Okay, I see some head nods. Great. I see a lot of questions coming to me. I will address those at the end. But let me tell you a quick story about this little boy I know very quickly. This little kid was raised up in the inner city in the South. In the inner city in the South, you all may know, with the West Coast, he was in the inner city, a low income area. And listen to this little kid's story. He would talk about being raised in the projects. He actually thought they were a very rich family because his mother painted his walls blue. Their walls were blue and everybody else's walls were white. So they thought they were very, very rich. And so hearing his story, it was a lot of things that happened in the hood or the projects that you may stereotypically hear. It was a lot of gangs, violence, and crime. But this is also the hood that's in America that a part of a national study is that they look at and examine third graders' test scores to determine how many prison beds to build. This is the hood this kid was raised into. But outside of the hood, he talked about something else. He talked about this camp that he went to every summer, that he was invited through this Christian volunteer program, that they will come out and recruit the kids, and he had to build up credit. He would talk about how he built up credit, because if you build up credit, you can say like one day, and you have to do great the one day to get invited another day. Well, he actually beat all odds, and he stayed the entire week overnight, and it was invited back for the entire summer. Well, so it was just like fascinating hearing the story. And so at this camp, he learned how to canoe, he learned how to swim, He learned how to really embrace other cultures because he was raised in a Black family at a Black church. And this was a white Christian camp. And so the music was very different, as he will report. It was just a little different. And so he was learning about just a different sense of community, even in the midst of this camp experience. But he also beat the odds and he went to school because a lot of people did not graduate from high school. And this kid, he actually had to test into the white district at that time. And he had to test into the white district. You can see on your left and right, the first school was his school, what he spent from elementary and middle, and the Black district. And he had to test into the white district for high school. He tested into it and he was able to go there because his grandmother was a custodian worker. And so that's why he was actually able to go to that school. He beat odds again. And he also went off to college. And he was a first generation college student. And Rotary was one of his first experience to go abroad and study at University of Campinas in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I tell you, that little kid is here today. Why do I tell you this little story? It's not about me. I tell you this because I'm a proud Rotarian, a proud Rotarian. And I've been in Rotary for I'm about to get ready to hit, well, I actually been in Rotary since age 23, because I'm almost about to hit my 10-year anniversary as a Rotarian. I know, it's kind of bizarre thinking about that out loud. But here's my message. There's hope for people like me because the choice you made today to show up. There's hope because you made the active, conscious choice to serve above yourself. You made that choice. You made the choice to be able to reach back to say, I'm going to leave my community better than I found it. You made that choice. The power is within this call. The power is within this room. The power is within you. And there's hope to build a bigger, better, stronger, more diverse and inclusive Rotary because of you, And so I don't want to leave this call without giving, because I really do believe without hope, there's no hope without action. So I got to really talk about some action steps we can do together. But let me tell you high level what's happening in Rotary International. You heard from my colleague, Brian. He was talking about the Rotary International DEI task force, that we're doing a lot of great work to really help develop a plan for Rotary International for the first of its kind. But prior to that, the board of directors did set some goals in place, okay? They set some goals in place about the women in Rotary and also women in Rotary leadership. And the goal is to be 30% by 2023. Okay, so that's a measurable goal that's in place. I'm gonna go ahead and answer the questions before I'm asked. The reason why we have a goal around women is because that's the best data we can track globally. We don't do we're starting to track age, and it's still not as greatly reported. And then of course, we're having conversations now about tracking other demographics, but across the world, depending on those questions as appropriate or not, or even some questions around legal parameters of asking certain demographics questions. So this is why we're here right now, okay? Let me tell you all, based on our stats, where we're at coming into this quarter, around the women that's in Rotary, okay? We're 24%, so we still got 6% to go based on that goal. And you also see around the world, some are as less as 7%, and then some is aggregated as large as 33%. So we got to really think about that, but let's not get too comfortable, even with the membership in Rotary, because when we look at our leaders, we are not there yet, but we're getting better. And over the last 5 years, we have seen an increase amount of leaders who are women in Rotary, okay? Now, of course, we see a 0 for RI president. Of course, we all know that is changing, but I cannot change the stat until it has definitely been implemented. My friend Jennifer, everyone knows that is going to be changing. And we're happy that things are getting better. And so, all the great leaders who are women on our boards and our trustees, and they're just great individuals. But I will tell you this, is that, look, number one, there are leaders that just so happen to be women. If you notice, I did not say these are our women leaders, because so many times when we put the gender, we put the race, we put the ability before the actionable attribute, you really dismisses that. You got to think about that. It is powerful to have leaders who happen to be XYZ and representative of our workforce or our community, but never allow the citation to be that they are because they are a woman, because they are very competent, qualified, experienced leaders that we so happen to have them on the board. So keep those things in mind as you do your club planning and as you do your board planning, okay? So as we go into this new year, we was just with Holger, Rotary Open Opportunities, and now with our new theme, Serve to Change Lives. I think we can put it together. I think we could continue to serve to change lives and continue to open opportunities, because we are in a state of that we are in an interesting time, navigating the pandemic. We're about to slowly come back into this like return to, physical experiences. And so we got to keep that in mind as we navigate through our tenure as leaders. So how can we do this? How can we continue to put an action plan into place? Okay, because everyone always asks me the first question, where do we start? Well, I would tell you this. Inclusion starts, you ready? With the letter I. I know so many times you're ready for a whole playbook. You're ready for me to tell you how you're going to dismantle this and this. I'm telling you, before you start pointing fingers at everybody else, let's point the finger at yourself and say, how am I showing up? That is one of the largest opportunities that's missed in this work. So many times we don't self-reflect. So many times we don't know how we're perceiving, how we're showing up. And so before you look out the window, hold up the mirror and really ask those critical questions of what is your experiences and what you know or not know, and how can you build inclusion? So that's number one. The next thing I tell you is that we know in this work that mindsets are the hardest to change. Here's another big question I get. Todd, how do I, it's a lot of people in my club that don't agree with this, or they think it's so political, or why are we doing, here, look, I'm a psychologist, and I know like minds can be changed, and it is a formula of how your mind correlates to your behavior. But let me tell you something, is that it doesn't really care about your mindset at this moment, because I can't see it. I can't see what you're thinking right now. But what I can see is your behaviors. And I'm trying to lean more into your behaviors versus your mindset, because at the end of the day, when I look at my samples and my research, what people think they do is not how they behave. It's I hear a lot of people say, wow, my intentions was to do this. I intended to be good, but unfortunately, you're not judged off your intentions. I'm sorry, I know that's not the best thing to hear today, but people will not judge you on your intentions. They will not judge you on your mindset. You will be judged on your behaviors. Not saying your mindset and your intentions should not be taken slightly, or you should not be inconsiderate of those. Those are very important. They are correlated. But I told people, if you really want to know how you perceived in this space, go on your Facebook and say, I am the most diverse, or I am a diverse and equitable and inclusive leader. Put it as your caption. And then if all your Facebook friends come back and laugh and they say, who hacked your account? What's going on? Or what? Guess what? People don't think you're a diverse, equitable, inclusive leader. Okay. So that's just a funny little thing you can do. Here's the next thing I would say is that it's open mind and open heart is critical. Okay. Everybody is in different stages of this work. Okay. So we have to give some space and grace to this process and this journey. I'm telling you what I've learned and what I know. You have to give yourself some grace and space as well as others. Can't make assumptions. Everybody may not be where you at, and that's okay. Okay, but are you going to give some space for you to learn and meet them where they're at so we can all come together, etc. So please have an open mind and open heart, and don't make assumptions. Just because someone is Black on Black skin, that don't mean they want to be on the Black Lives Matter committee. Okay, just because they recognize and raise hand and say I identify as gay, they don't mean they want to lead the Pride Parade for the Rotary Club. Okay, don't make these assumptions. Just because they're a woman, that don't mean they want to do the women recruiting initiative. Just because they're a white man, that don't mean mean that they don't want to be a part of the inclusion committee. Okay, here's the things that I see as assumptions. We got to work on that, and an open mind and an open heart will help us get there. The last thing I will leave you with, because there's so many great questions that's coming towards me, is an action plan. Okay, if you're not intentionally being inclusive, you're unintentionally being exclusive. So you need to be intentional in this work. I'm not saying that you have to go and donate billions of dollars to this organization, read 500 books, and be in all these book study class. No, I'm just think of 1 to 3 things that you could do personally. Think of 1 to 3 things you could do in your club or your community to continue to move these efforts together. And yes, you can't really talk about true inclusion without talking about the structural and the historic lens around isms. You got to be able to have that conversation. You got to be able to reflect on true history and understand how we got to where we at today. Okay, it's not something that you or I created, but we're living in it. And guess what? We can make a choice to do something about it. I really do believe that. So as I land here, I know I said a lot very, very fast, but hopefully it was something helpful. But I'm going to leave you with this. A small change in this space can make a big difference. A small change in this space can make a big difference. Just by smiling, just by speaking to someone you never spoke before, just by asking someone, how can I support you? How can I champion you? How can I hear your story? Can I share my story? A small change in this space can make a big difference. So I'm going to leave you all with that thought as we open it up for Q&A. And as Rotarians, when I come back and talk to you all next year, or I see you when we're able to greet each other, and I say, as a leader, as a Rotarian, can I see your inclusive resume? What will be on it? What do you not want to share? Will you be proud to tell us about your resume? I'm not here to judge your resume, but it's just a case in point that you should be proud of the efforts that you're doing to make our world a better place. And so, my friends, thank you so much for having me. Hopefully it was something, once again, that was helpful. You guys are beautiful, and thank you so much for your time. And so I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Here's all my contact information. I even put it in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, connect with me. I'm on like everything social or email. I love y'all. All right, Brian, I turn it back over to you, friend.
Awesome. Todd, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I'm sorry, because I think a lot of questions went to you, but we're going to start with first of all, I just want to share that, some of our meetings are super early, and I can confirm that every single meeting, Todd is wearing a bow tie, no matter how early or what time of day it is. And sometimes I'm rolling in like a hoodie and he's there with his bow tie. So it's super impressive.
That's funny.
And I actually wanted to start with something that Dr. Sylvia had a question about. And that is, she's interested in the comparison between the statements that have been adopted by Rotary International and what the reality that we're seeing in changes with the organization. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so, number one, from my perception is that I think we are, if we look at the maturity journey or maturity index of our organization, let's put it into some numbers. From a level 1 to 5, and 5 being world-class and most or matured, I still think we are barely hitting a 1. Okay, that's my perception. That's me. Y'all don't record this and put it out on Facebook, but that is my thoughts, because right now we have only scratched the surface. And yes, we can say, oh, yeah, we have a lot of countries involved in Rotary. Oh, we're very diverse. Yeah, we are diverse on paper, but where is the inclusivity that we're missing? Where's the equitable? Can we end racism like we end polio? Let's have that conversation. And that's where you see your statement becomes a commitment. And that's why we are maturing in this space. So that is my reflection on that, Dr. Sylvia.
And I appreciate that. And I don't totally disagree. Susan Cohen Grossman would like to know, so her impression is that her club avoids conflict like the plague. I think that we've learned this year that people don't necessarily avoid the plague as much as they should, but that's another discussion. So her question is, how do we discuss DEI within the club? How do we actually start these conversations?
Yeah, that's a really great question. You know, you got to really understand the culture of every club, right? But D&I, this is one of the common mistakes that I see in my work, is that D&I should not be a standalone initiative. It should be something that's baked in. It should be intentional, but it should be baked into how we run, think, and say, and do Rotary. What do I mean by that? It's not, oh, it's Women's History Month, so we need to have a woman speaker, and that's our D&I box this month. Like, no, how you bring this into your club membership is that it needs to examine your entire life cycle of a Rotary member and see how you providing the best Rotary experience, right? And how does inclusion really helps you enable that? As you introduce this to the club, you can introduce this, you know, very much in various ways, because I think people have a perception of what this looks like, right? Based on their preconceived notions. I believe that just by bringing the club together for a discussion of what these words mean is a start. Right, that alone is a conversation that let's talk about what these words mean to us. Let's talk about our own stories. Let's talk about what we see and don't see in this club and what we'd like to see more of. I think we could start with there. You don't need a guest speaker for everything. Okay, so many people like, let me have a speaker. No, people listen, but they don't really participate. And we need people to participate in this journey. Okay, and we need to engage our members where they're at. So that is my recommendation, is that you can hit it in various ways. I'm not saying not to have speakers or minority speakers, I still say do that, but I think you can also do it in other ways where it's not seen as like, this is our DEI conversation that we have to so prepare for, right? So I think you leverage that. Also, you know, the club assessments are really good, a good starting point. I also put that on my, it's a part of my link. If you look at my link of Rotary, it's on the DEI Resources for Rotary.org. Do a club assessment, take that to your board, take that to your club. That's a great talking point right there to get the conversation started. The next thing I would tell you all is that as a leader, your attitude matter in this space with how you approach this. So if you come in it with like a us and they and an in and out group, it may be perceived that way. So your persona and attitude does matter with your delivery of this work. I work with a lot of club leaders about how to talk about this when they're uncomfortable. And it's okay to not know all the answers. And it's okay to show your vulnerability and say, look, I'm uncomfortable as well. And I've seen more people respond to that versus like, I got it all together. So those are just some of the tidbits, the things to think about. And don't forget, it's no right or wrong way to do it. Oh no, I'm sorry. It is some wrong ways to, legally, but so be mindful, but hit me up anytime and I'm happy to talk through your thoughts.
So I think, you know, we've, especially in the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of focus on racism against the AAPI community. And so past District Governor Ron Jim is curious about your thoughts on anti-Asian racism and both within Rotary and just in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think my thoughts remain the same for all isms, right? And so something that is created. It was created. The stereotypes and these microaggressions was created out of nasty beasts that we need to that we need to continue to talk about and make sure that we're not still exemplifying those behaviors. And so my approach and my thoughts to that is that, of course, it needs to stop. As well as we need to continue to really open up our lens to all isms, right? And I think that is the conversation that these movements have allowed for us to have, because this is nothing new, right? People are just able to give terminology and positional terms to this. So, and it's something that's meaningful to that because people can understand and conceptualize it. So my thoughts and my reflection to that is that, you know, it is something that is incredibly that we need to be involved. We need to continue to educate and inform our members as well as inform ourselves around all isms, you know, so I think that's across the board. That'd be my perspective.
You know, I would love personally if, because I think that you know, when I speak, for example, people are kind of like, oh, how do we get the gays more involved? and this conversation is very skewing towards race, but I would be curious if you could kind of discuss a little bit more in depth about diversity, the different types of diversity that we should be looking at within our clubs, because I think that oftentimes, especially, I know that there's been a lot of avoidance about having these conversations because people don't want to do a deep dive into the racism conversation, but let's talk about diversity and what the varieties of diversity that you kind of touched on with your unseen diversity.
Yeah, so you got, I mean, cognitive, you know, thinking styles, different mindsets, professions. I mean, all of those things are, I mean, I really do think most clubs are starting to do that better over the last 10 years. Around having diverse professions, right? I don't think one club have all scientists, right? So we did that. That's great. Okay. I think we started to hit more of the backgrounds of what experiences outside of professional. So what about working mothers? What about, you know, people who are retirees and not as a working professional? What does that look like? Oh, I'm sorry, single mothers, right? Who stay-at-home mothers. That's what I meant. So thinking about those are missed opportunities for engagement. So diversity is a large spectrum, you know, like I say, visible and invisible or invisible. So I really think you have to think about how are you reflecting your community, what you can measure, and also think about who's missing in your club. And that really allows for you to assess how you can have some intentional relationship buildings, et cetera. I do believe that we should not get into this whole deal around I need one, you know, I need this Black person, I need this gay person, I need this woman, because that's when we really start to exemplify tokenism, as well as nobody wanted to know that they got recruited because they were Asian or Black or Hispanic. Who wants to know that? Like, first of all, number one, when people come into Rotary, they already know Rotary is a big white organization. You don't have to tell a minority that. That's nothing new. Minorities have lived through this, okay? So they already know what they're coming into, and you don't have to remind them that you're not diverse. They can clearly see it when they walk in the room. And so one of the things that I tell people is not to go so much after color and gender, but go after the hearts and experiences. So many times that we get new members and we never ask them, what do you want to experience? What can we help you out personally and professionally? And that's how you can help with new membership engagement. And yes, we did the under 35 rule. I created that like years and years ago in my club. And now we have 18 members. But here's the catch about the under 35 rule around our fee. Not only people that's under 35 is struggling financially. So we open it up to everyone. And now we have a lot of individuals that's a part of that. So that's why we have to really, really continue to give ourselves some space and grace as we explore the curiosity of diversity coming into our club and approaching that based on our climate and culture.
I think that what you're saying about not really going after token members is really important. And I know that like a lot of times people are like, how do we get more people of color? How do we get more of this? How do we get more of that? So I think that there's a good question by John Chrisman. How do we improve access to Rotary? Like, what are ways that we can really lower the barriers to allowing more people to be part of the organization?
Yeah, so first it starts so many, you got to look at the structures. I say examine your processes, examine the power dynamics. Think about that in Rotary. Like if you don't have this title, PDG on everything. I mean, you got to ring a bell. I mean, all those stuffs are structure things that can get in the way in 30s. Like, I don't know if I'm going to stick around that long, right? So what is the access to that? And it's because of some of those barriers in place. Do you know in certain parts of the world, in certain countries, if you don't give XYZ dollars to the foundation, you will never be in line for DG? These are some things that's in place, that's implemented, institutionalized. So you got to think about that. Even in your own club, you got to start asking why and why not. Because a lot of club members and a lot of club leaders don't know. They just say, hey, I do this because Rotary says it. But it's a lot of the times now that Rotary is very flexible. It's up to you, but you got to be curious. You got to lean in and you got to think about that, because really, sometimes the way you bring people into a club, having them as a red badge for 8 months and then a green badge and then I mean, that's already a struggle right there. Like, I just think about these things. It's like, you got to think about that. So assess your club on that, even thinking about abilities, right? If someone is coming and showing up to a club, wheelchair is not the only disability, my friends. It's a lot of other things that when we have district conference of interpreters, it's a lot of things of other abilities that are providing the inability it's not accessible to Rotary. So we got to start having some of these questions, okay? And that's what I would say. That's a really big question to address, but think about the structures that's in place. I would just say continue to think and lean in there.
I think that's important. And even, I've had this conversation because we're so much on Zoom now. And yet how often do we see things that are closed captioned for people who may have hearing difficulties or speaking difficulties? And also, I like, a lot of my club members are English second language. So how, it's easier to be able to read some of that stuff. We have a question from past District Governor Sue Roca, and it's about religious diversity and why do people in Rotary disregard the religious diversity by continuing to have prayer within their meetings?
Yeah, so I can't answer that because and once again, everything that I said today is not for me speaking on behalf of Rotary. Okay, I am just as a volunteer and human, just like you are, trying to figure it out and do something great while I live on Earth. So I don't know. I think it's based on it's institutionalized and how we was kind of breathed into the United States. But guess what? We can not get rid of it, but you can also ask the question in your club. I've seen a lot of interfaith clubs. I've seen people who don't do prayer. I see people who have different religion observations, like a Rotary moment or reflection instead of prayer. So I don't think it's not written in the rule book that we must pray. Okay, I don't think that's a policy anywhere. I think it's based on club culture and dynamics. So I would say lean into that, into your club, into your district, and just ask the question: how are we being open to different faiths? If this is the only way we do it, or we only celebrate Christmas, or we only celebrate, these mainstream holidays, or what they call it. So yeah, great. Oh yeah, look, I think Heather just put that in the chat too. Consider what holidays your clubs is celebrating too, not just prayer. See, we're right on it. I agree.
I think I would love too for you to weigh in though, because as these conversations we have them, some of these things work for clubs. Like the badges, the red badge, the green badge, which I don't even know what all that is because my club isn't like that, but if you were able to build, some people, regardless of race or gender or all these things, are drawn to a club that's much more formal, that has the prayer, that has that, and so that's the right club for them, right? But so I think that we do need to recognize that it is different. Not every club is right for every person.
Yeah. Well. I would say something back to that point. I don't think we're trying to change people. We're not trying to get people to fit. But what diversity, equity, and inclusion is transforming the organization so all people can fit. Okay. And so the deal is that it may work great for that individual, but is it to a point where it is excluding others? And so this, and I leave with this, guy. I don't know how much time we have here, but I have to say this is that don't forget, you all, that we joined something. We joined Rotary. Rotary didn't join us. We can't just go and say it's whatever we want. And people think we could do that. If not, that we have a code of conduct, we have a way of process. Now we're trying to make sure those processes and policies are being as much inclusive and equitable as we can be, but we joined the organization. And I think sometimes we forget that we're a member. And so what are we doing for that organization to be open to all? And that is very true. And it is different per club, per area of the world. But that's the question that I want to leave you all with. Once again, there's a lot of questions I'm leaving you with. But how are your club been open to all? You know, or do people have to fit? Do they have to fit in to join your club? You really want to think about that, because I don't look for cultural fits. I look for cultural adds. I look for people who are going to add value, and let's make this thing bigger, better together. So, Brian, I think we're at time. Or do we need to?
I have a couple quick things for you. One, there's some questions about your PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure what your policy is about sharing that.
Okay. I don't know. Reach out to my team, send me an email. We'll work it out. Usually we don't share our decks, but if you want to have that conversation, I can have that conversation with you.
Okay.
And the reason why we don't share our decks is because number one is two things about this deck. We have Rotary stats on there, and we don't want it displayed without the right knowledge behind, and as well as we don't want it going to public use. And so we will hope that this presentation is not externally for YouTube and any things like that. So that's why we don't share our decks broadly. But if you feel like it's certain parts of the PowerPoint that you feel that's very helpful for your club as a resource, we have resources that we can give to you as well. So,
and that was the follow-up. Is there a broad list of resources regarding DEI, both, you know, I'm sure you have some, and also from RI that you know.
Oh, yes, Mr. Ron, sorry, I don't know. I didn't mean to use a pronoun or gender identifier. Ron, if you want to send me an email, I'm going to put my email address again. So yeah, if you guys are interested, just send me an email. I have a whole list of DEI resources for if you want to start a conversation, books to read. I do this professionally. I have a podcast. I mean, I have a lot of stuff. So as well as if I have the time, I may be able to come talk to your club. I'm not going to guarantee that. Let me say that very loosely. But if I can, I would. But know that you don't necessarily need my PowerPoint to deliver the message. The message is already within you.
And I would add, there's a ton of great resources that we have available. The task force is actually has a lot of great educational pieces with resources to do club evaluations and to really start as a starting point for your club and for you as an individual to look at and see what you can do. And those are evolving, so we'll have quite a bit more in the next coming months. Did you have any closing thoughts, Todd?
No, I just want everyone to understand that it's okay to not have it all figured out. And it's okay to understand that we're all learning together. Okay. And we just need active learners, and we need lifelong learners in this space. Also, one thing I don't talk about a lot is the people who challenge you in this space. You're going to have some people who challenge you. You're going to have people who disagree with this. But I'm going to tell you what I've learned is that you don't need to focus on the naysayers. You listen to them because that's a part of inclusion, but your focus and your energy should be on the middle. It should be focused on motivating the middle, not the top ones that's like going to champion you all the time, and not the ones who don't care anything about what you're saying. Focus the energy on the middle, because your organization middle is what will hold and sustain you through these times. So I love you all once again. I look forward to connecting. And yes, I'm going to give some bow ties to you, Mother Sylvia, too. It's good to see you.
Todd, thank you again. I know it was really special for us to have you with us. And yeah, look forward to, well, I'll see you next week, but I look forward to continuing the conversation with everybody, and thanks again.
Yes, thank y'all. Have a great day. Stay in touch.